Hi, I'm Alex Howard, and welcome to this week's episode of In Therapy, where we follow real-life people on their therapeutic journeys. In this week's episode, we're exploring the people pleaser pattern. This is where we get so used to accommodating everyone else, making everyone else happy around us, that we also pay a price. We pay a price in our own body. We pay a price in our own nervous system. And when we're learning to really calm our body's danger signals, our body's way of trying to tell us it feels that we're under threat, we have to learn to listen. Sometimes that means learning how to have boundaries with those around us and really honor our own needs. If you haven't already, please do like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified as new episodes are released. And do follow my Instagram at Alex Howard Therapy for daily inspiration and support. This week, we catch up with 22-year-old Sanaya, who has come to therapy to help with her anxiety. Last time, we saw that Sanaya is making good progress, but there are still things we can add to her anxiety toolkit. Together, we explored some of the key principles for calming the nervous system and ways to reset anxiety responses. So Sanaya, it's lovely to see you.
Yeah.
I think, is it 2 weeks since I last saw you? I think it's 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks.
How have those 2 weeks been?
Yeah, they've been, I think, good. Yeah, I think it's been good. I've been if I'm honest, I haven't really got anxious that much.
Wow.
Which is, yeah.
Is that normal to not get anxious for a couple of weeks?
No, that's not normal. But yeah, it's been weird. I've had anxious moments. I've done the stop process method a few times. And actually it has really helped a lot. I've seen a big difference when I've done that. But yeah, as a whole, I couldn't really tell you that time where I got really, really anxious and I hated it or anything like that. And then yeah, in terms of sticking to my meditations and going to the gym and all of that, I had for the past week, I just didn't do it. And I can't say that it made me anxious, but I did feel really, really guilty about it. But I kind of I tried not to think about it too much. And I was it's okay. Life just gets in the way.
And what was the reason you didn't go? Was it because you had too many other things happening, or was it because you just weren't because you've been really on it? In terms of, was there a bit of a lag in that, or what's your sense?
It began just because I had a very temporary job for 2-3 days.
Okay.
At the beginning of the week. And they were really early mornings, at 7:30. So I was realistically, I'm not going to get to the gym.
Gym's not going to be open in time.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of happened, and I was oh, it's fine, because as soon as this is over, I'll just get back into it. And I think my body was just so tired. Yeah. I remember
from the early starts.
Yeah. On that Wednesday, my alarm went off, and I was just I can't do it. And yeah, the job was quite demanding. I had to be on my feet all day. So I was just kind of it's not going to happen. Yeah. And then continued from then. It was a mix of I could actually go, but I just didn't. I think it was the early mornings. I was just kept putting my alarm off straight away.
Hitting snooze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but it was quite nice for me just because I didn't actually get anxious about it. Really, it wasn't I was I don't know, getting worried about it.
Because in some ways it's quite, because I know that routine of going to the gym and adding in the meditation has really helped, but also there probably was a sense of, I need to do this to be okay. And in some ways the fact that you didn't do it and you've still been okay, hopefully also just calms things down another step.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then on Saturday, I was okay, I need to go back to the gym. And then so yesterday morning and today again, I went to the gym and got back into my routine of, applying for jobs and going to the gym and whatnot.
And well done for getting back on track, right? It's it sounds like legitimate reason why you were off track because of other stuff that's going on. But if we've got a strong habit, sometimes the challenge is you break the habit and then it's really hard to get started again.
Yeah.
So you've also shown yourself that even when you kind of were off track, not that you're off track, but you weren't in the routine, that you also have the motivation to get yourself back in the routine.
Yeah. I had like a little blip when I went out. And then again, I think I drank too much. And then I came home and I just had this feeling where I was like, okay, I just don't want this in my body. So I did make myself throw up, which was, I was just like, afterwards, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. But the next day I was like tried to forget about it.
And you made yourself throw up because of how you felt with the kind of hangover? Or you made yourself throw up more in that kind of bulimic way of, what's your...
I think it was like, at the time, it was like this feeling of, I think because I like was a bit drunk, I was just like, I don't really want the alcohol in my body. And I don't know if it was like a physical thing, like, oh, this is going to make me gain weight or whatever. I don't think it was. I think it was just from like a health point of view. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have drank that much.
And it was the following day that you did it, or that night?
It was that night I came home and I did it. So I don't think I would have done it if I like wasn't under the influence of alcohol. So the next day I did wake up feeling like I shouldn't have done that. And then I made sure that I ate like a big meal and everything.
Okay. So it didn't feel like a return to kind of old patterns in a sense?
No, I was just more like annoyed at myself for doing it.
Yeah.
So but it was okay. Like after that I was like, okay, just try and forget that. Yeah. So and then since then I've been like fine, and I haven't really had, I couldn't really tell you that I've had like a really anxious moment or anything. So it's been good. Kind of.
So the you that sat here telling me about the last couple of weeks now, and if you imagine the you that came for the first session that you had like a few sessions ago, this is our third session, I think. It's the fourth session.
Yeah.
Third or fourth. It's in my note. Fourth. I think it's our fourth.
Yeah.
Would you have believed that you'd be sat here saying that at this point?
No, not really. No.
Because I think it felt to you at the start that the anxiety was something that it had a lot of power, and you were kind of a bit powerless against it. And what I'm hearing you describe now is not that I never get anxious and not that I'm never going to have anxiety again, but it just the anxiety about anxiety, or the sense that like, this anxiety has this enormous power over you. That feels different. Like it feels like you're in a different relationship to it.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like it has like this intense power over me. Yeah.
Because if feeling like it has that power over you is part of what makes the anxiety so bad. Does that make sense? It's like, because if it's like, oh yeah, sometimes I get anxious, like, I don't really like it, but it's kind of, so what? That's one thing. Another thing is like, if it happens, I can't do anything, I'm not in control. And then there tends to be so much anticipatory anxiety, like anxiety about having anxiety. And what I think I'm hearing you say is that anticipatory anxiety seems to have really calmed down. Yeah. So your relationship to it feels to me and like just feels different.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been like thinking like, why do I get so anxious as well? And I think like a lot of it is that I feel guilty, and I don't know exactly why I feel guilty, but I think there's like an element of like letting people down. So like in the videos that I watched, I didn't really think I was a people pleaser at all. But like, the more I thought about it.
And then you found out what a people pleaser was.
Yeah, and I was just like, like I really worry like, oh, I don't want to let my mum down. I feel guilty about like me being an awful child when I was in like sixth form or whatever, and being like troublesome or whatever. And then like, I felt guilty for breaking up with my boyfriend. I feel guilty when like I let my friends down when I don't see them because I'm feeling anxious or I don't want to see them or whatever. And then like I also feel guilty because I should stay at home and be with my sister because I don't want her to be like alone. So like I was thinking about it all. She's 16.
But why should you be at home with her?
No, it's just we always like speak about, oh, can you be at home at this day because I'm not doing anything? And
Okay.
I think it's just more so when I'm not there, she's usually like a teenager, like just sitting in her room on her phone. So I think she definitely prefers it when I am there because like we'll watch the TV or like do
Right.
stuff together or like go for a walk together. So I think like, yeah, I think also I never really had like an older sister when I was growing up. So I was like, oh.
So you
like,
feel a kind of pressure to be that for her.
yeah,
In a sense.
like I want to be her like friend. So yeah, it's like I don't want to I don't want to let her down if I'm like going out all the time. And then also my mum would prefer it if I didn't go out all the time anyway. So
Sounds really quite stressful.
Yeah.
It's just like, in a sense, because what I'm hearing you say, just want to reflect it back, you don't want to let your friends down by not going out and being with them.
Yeah.
But if you go out with them, you let your sister down because you're not there with her, and you let your mum down.
Yeah.
And there's this sense of also like wanting to kind of be out there in terms of like work and sort of like progressing things, which then means you let your friends down, your sister down, and your mum down.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like whatever you do, you're going to let someone down.
Yeah, but that's why I thought I wasn't a people pleaser, because I was always letting someone down. Like,
right.
I always
because you were failing at keeping everyone happy.
Yeah.
You couldn't have been. What I think you now realise is the very fact that you feel like you're always letting someone down means that you have a strong people pleasing trait.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like watching that video and I was like, okay, like maybe I am a people pleaser a bit, and then the more I thought about it and the more like day to day and just like how I was like with my family or my friends or like trying to like organise my life, I realised that, oh yeah, like I'm trying to like make my friends happy and then make my family happy, and it's hard.
Sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
And also, in a sense, it's also anxiety inducing, right? Because you're constantly having to think about, if I do this, how will it make that person feel? And if I do this, how will it make that person feel? And if I do this, I'm going to let those people down. So you're spending a lot of energy thinking about everyone else, which speeds up your whole system. And if you remember what we said, I think on our second session, about the kind of the biology of anxiety, that when you pump those stress hormones, the cortisol, the adrenaline, your system gets used to being wired, and then almost it will latch onto anything to worry about because it's already overstimulated. Anything that we can do that helps calm your system, like it's almost your baseline of anxiety and stress, if before it was up there and it's already calmed down a bit, anything we can do to calm it down even further just means that if a panic attack or anxiety is up here, the further your baseline is, the longer the journey is to get to that point that it feels overwhelming. So this feeling like you've got to put everyone else's needs before your own is just that, apart from the fact that it's gets in the way of you doing what you want to do in your life, it stresses your system.
Yeah.
You know, also one of my kind of quotes I probably overuse, but is that to say yes to ourselves, we have to say no to other people.
Yeah.
Like it's learning how to go, do you know what? I know I want to be there for my sister, but actually right now, this is what I need to do. Or I want to be there for my friends. Do you have a sense of how that pattern plays out? Like, you've given me some examples of some of the people. What are some of the things that you say to yourself inside of your mind? Like, if you're imagining, for example, going out with your friends and not being there with your sister, and it's a day that she's going to be home, how would you play that in your mind? Like, what would be the things you'd say to yourself?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like that. I think the main thing is like a worry, like, oh, what's she going to do without me? And like, how, like, I just kind of worry about her. And then I also think, like, personally, maybe I shouldn't go out. Like, it's like I might end up drinking too much or being embarrassing, or like I'm not going to make a difference if I'm there anyway. So I may as well make a difference whilst I'm at home.
And when you worry about her, do you project your anxiety onto her? Like, you worry that she'll be anxious if you go out and you're not around?
Yeah, like I wouldn't say it's anxiety. I just worry that she was like a bit depressed.
So you feel a sort
kind
of
thing.
maternal, slightly maternal thing of wanting to be there to help her?
Yeah, I think so. And I think because we have like a really good relationship, and she trusts me a lot as well. So I kind of like, I don't know. I want to like be there for her.
Yeah. So there's a part of that which I think is a very sweet sisterly care, right? So I don't want to wrap everything into psychological issues. Like it's also like you care about your sister, right? And you want to be supportive of her. But there's also, sounds like there's another piece that comes in, which is then that almost gets turned against you and turned into like you're being selfish or not being there for you. So there's the genuine care, but then it almost gets weaponized by your inner critic and used as a way to make you feel bad if you're not always there with your sister.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does.
How does it play out with friends? So let's say you've got some friends that are going out on a Friday night, whatever, to a pub, bar, whatever.
Yeah.
And you said you might go, then you decide not to go for whatever reason. It might be with your sister, it might be that you're working, whatever. How does that then play out in your mind?
I think I just worry that like they make jokes that I'm flaky and stuff on plans. And I think I just get worried that I'm like, oh, I'm not fun anymore. And I think in sixth form, like I went out literally all the time. If any of them wanted to do something, I would always be like, yeah, I'm on it, whatever.
And just for a sec, sorry to interrupt you, but was that also because you didn't want to let people down? So it was almost like if someone wanted to go out, or was it because you were just like, you were into going out?
That was just me. Like I just didn't really care about anything and I just wanted to go out at that age. So because that whole entire time I was definitely letting my mum down. It wasn't really, I wouldn't say that in sixth form I was like anxious or tried to people please at all.
You just wanted to have fun.
It was genuinely just me.
Yeah.
And then I think just because I've changed quite a bit since then, I do worry sometimes with my group of friends, like that I'm definitely not the same.
Yeah. So you don't want to let them down and you don't want to be seen as flaky.
I don't want to be seen as like someone who's boring and like no one sees anymore. And
then how does it play out with your mum? I'm thinking about the different places where this pattern plays out. So with your mum, you decide to go out with your friends. What's the guilt pattern that plays out thinking about your mum?
I think I just feel like I owe her something. I think one of her main worries is also me, like where I'm going, how I'm getting back. So I kind of don't want to, because even though I say don't wait up for me, she still does. So I still worry about that. I feel like I definitely like owe her, and I should be at home helping her because she's stressed or whatever.
Sounds like a lot of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you're responsible for how your mum feels, you're responsible for your sister, you're responsible for your friends.
Yeah.
It just sounds like really hard work to me.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess it's not really, I know it's not that, it's just like how I want them to perceive me as well.
Yeah, so there's also wanting to be seen as being kind and being considerate and being respectful and thoughtful of others.
Yeah.
When it comes to deciding what to do on a day off or a weekend or an evening, how much do you decide that based upon what you really want to do versus your sister, your mum, your friends? Like, what drives those decisions?
I think it depends. Like it literally just depends on the day, I reckon. And like how often I have seen my friends, if I feel like I've seen them a bit too often, or I don't know. And like I haven't seen my sister for a while, then like it just all like depends on how often I've seen them. And
so it basically depends on who you owe some of your time to.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because what you're not saying to me is what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like do you want to hang out with your sister? Do you want to hang out with your mum? Or do you want to hang out with your friends? Or do you want to hang out by yourself? Like there's obviously, these aren't the only options. What I'm hearing you doing is almost weighing up the different, like, well, I spent time with them, I haven't spent time here, or I owe this person some time, which is, it's to me quite a strong helper pattern, right? It's like placing everyone else's needs as being more important than your own. And I wonder, I don't think this is the only, I don't want to take something which is a bit of the jigsaw and inflate it too much, but I wonder if part of what your anxiety has been about has been a part of you going, how about me? Like, what do I want? As opposed to, I've got to be there for this person, think about this person, don't want to let this person down. Like, that's all quite activating and quite stressful to your system. And it's like a part of you just going, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the more that you're making decisions from what you want to do, which of course is sometimes going to mean you want to hang out with your sister. Sometimes you want to spend time with your mum. Sometimes you want to see your friends. It's not, you're suddenly going to go screw the lot of them and never spend time with them. But it's like a different place from which you're then operating.
Yeah. I agree with that.
What's your sense of where that helper pattern comes from? Like, not wanting to let them down, not wanting to be seen as being selfish or being uncaring. Like, do you remember where that started, or like some of the kind of times when you were younger that perhaps got a bit carried away?
I'm not sure entirely. I know with my mum especially, it is just because I feel bad just from how I was in sixth form, and I put her and my dad like through like quite a hard time.
Have you ever sat down and sincerely apologized?
Yeah.
Yeah, and did they hear that apology?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
My mum will still like bring up like petty comments, like kind of as a joke, about like, a party that I threw when I was 18 or something. But
in the house?
In the house,
when they were on holiday?
Well, they went to the cinema, and for some reason I thought it would be okay.
It's sort of rite of passage then, at some point.
But yeah, so
it feels like, because if you were saying to me, you've never really had a conversation about it, I'd be like, actually, probably the adult thing to do would be to sit down and say, do you know what? I was a teenager and I was having fun, and I recognise that I crossed the line at times, and I recognise I wasn't respectful, and I want you to know that I am sorry about that.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've done that.
Yeah, I definitely have.
Yeah, like, I believe you.
I really have.
The look in your eyes is like, trust me, Alex, I've really done this. So I really hear you've done that, and I'm not going to push that any further. But it's interesting that despite the fact that you've done that piece, you've not let go of it somehow. Like, there's still like a place where you're holding on to that and feeling guilty for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's because both my parents were going through such a hard time themselves.
At the moment, or at the time?
At the time.
At the time, yeah.
So especially like seeing how stressed they are now, and I think they're in like an okay place right now. I was just like, gosh, like I like added to that. So I definitely do feel guilty, like a lot for that.
But you see, it's interesting because I think that it's an appropriate rite of passage to go a bit wild at points as a teenager, right? And as long as no one gets seriously injured as a result, and you're not doing things which are just like fundamentally violating of people's boundaries, like throwing a party in the house when your parents go out is not the most grown-up thing to do, but it's also sort of what happens when you're a teenager and you're just like, I want to have fun. And like, that is part of growing up. And it's interesting that, because in a sense, by the way, not going through that stage is also problematic. Like, if you imagine someone that goes through their teenage years and always is a really goody two-shoes and does everything right and doesn't want to let anyone down, there's a part of them that hasn't been allowed to be free, that actually then they're more likely to sabotage their life later in life. It's like a little bit like, someone that marries the first person they're in love with and doesn't have any sort of sexual freedom and expression is much more likely to have an affair at some point later in life, because a part of them just like, I never had that experience. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
And that's not permission for someone just to go completely crazy, but it's appropriate to have different experiences. And But it's what's interesting is that what sounds like relatively normal teenage behavior that perhaps got a little bit enthusiastic on a few occasions has been sort of taken by your inner critic and almost weaponized against you of you're now not allowed to go out and have fun and, because you're going to hurt your mum, you're going to, not be there for your sister. And it sounds like that just isn't helpful for you in a sense. And my point is not that you should go out and go crazy the whole time. It's that you shouldn't feel guilty for wanting to go out and have fun. Like what I hear you say of the other night where you drank too much and you ended up making yourself sick. No one needs to make you feel guilty about that. It just didn't feel nice. Like you're going to be less likely to do that next time because you didn't like the way that it felt.
Yeah.
A layer of guilt and you're a terrible person, you're this and that is not a necessary thing to come in.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think would happen if you had a bit more space from this judgmental, critical voice? Like you didn't have to make yourself feel guilty for doing the things that you want to do.
I think I would do a lot more of what I wanted to do.
Right. What might some of those things be?
I think it's literally just kind of like looking after myself a bit more and like knowing, if I wanted to be on my own on this night or if I wanted to spend time with whoever on this night or I think I would be like a nice balance, I guess. And I think I had that at uni quite a bit. But yeah, it is like that whole moving back home and kind of, I can't just accommodate to what I want to do and when I want to do it because I'm living with other people.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, I think it's an important point you're making. There's definitely an appropriate respect of living in your parents' house and living by the rules of the house, right? So it's not that I'm saying you should go out till 5 o'clock in the morning every night. Like there's an appropriate thing. And if your mum finds, and I as a parent, it's like, I do get it. Like your mum struggles to go to sleep knowing that you're out. Like, I don't think there's ever easy resolutions to that because it's like, I just completely get that parental thing. Like if my wife goes out, my wife goes out and goes crazy. My wife goes out, like just if she's traveling across London late at night, I don't really go to sleep till she's home. Yeah. And rarely does she go out beyond midnight anyway. But if it's like, so there's a place where I get that, and you need to be free to have your life as well. And that's one of the reasons why at the age that you're at, it's generally healthier dynamic in families for kids to move on and have their own space. Then you're not, but of course you're living in London, and the realities of London is that's not an easy thing to do. And I think for a lot of people, they end up being home longer than they would have done because that's just the reality of London life. So I think it is a tricky dynamic. But I think the piece that particularly is important here is you feeling more free to listen to what you want to do. Because I'm not hearing what you say. You want to go out partying every night anyway. You want to be able to do that some of the time and enjoy doing that. What are some of the other things that you would do if you weren't thinking about the impacts on everyone else and like being there for your sister and your friends? Like if your time was completely yours to design your life the way that you want to, what might that look like?
I'm not entirely sure. Like if I had money, I would go away on my own. And like that was something that I knew that I thought I would like never ever go away alone because like what would I do with myself? But recently I'm like maybe like I would like need it and it would actually be the best thing for me. So if I had money, I would do that.
Where'd you go?
I don't know, like abroad, like France or Spain or something. So something like.
And you go like backpacking or traveling or you go and spend some time somewhere and work there or like.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I've not really thought about it too much, but I think just like organizing something to do on my own would be like really nice. And I feel like after I'd done it, I'd be like, oh, okay, I've just done that all alone with no like input from anyone else.
There's also something about building your sense of self-confidence that I think often comes from putting ourselves in it's not a difficult situation because there's not a necessarily difficult thing. Putting yourself in unfamiliar situations and thriving as a result, that just sort of gives one a sense of personal power. Like, I can go and travel on my own, or I can go and live in a different country by myself, and it's part of growing your character in a sense. I think that sounds like a great thing to aspire towards.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something that like recently I've been thinking about, and I feel like it's that whole thing of like growing your self-confidence. I think once I've done that, I'd be like, I literally like got through it all on my own, and I don't really need to rely on anyone else. Which is like comforting.
Yeah, and also particularly the career path that you're looking at, the more you can grow your sense of self-confidence, the better as well. So what stops you? So we're talking about a potential goal in the coming, months, let's say. Doesn't have a particular timeline on it, but of going traveling, perhaps being in a different country. Might be traveling, it might be staying in a location for a bit of time. So there's a financial piece.
Yeah.
There's obviously COVID, whatever happens with that. Is there anything else that's in the way of doing that?
I just feel like, I'll be leaving.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. How about your mom? How about your sister?
Yeah.
How about your friends?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I'd be less worried about my friends.
Yeah.
But more so about my family.
Yeah. But because I think sometimes when we just talk about something and put a spotlight on something, often that alone helps us see it a bit differently. Like, I wonder, just verbalizing to me that you're possibly not pursuing what you want to do in your life through fear of letting down and not being there for your family. When you think about it like that, how does that sort of sit with you?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I want to work on, and kind of like, I think I'm not like also entirely sure what exactly I want to do, just because I haven't really thought about it. Because in a day, I don't think about what I want to do. It's
you think about what everyone else wants you to do. Yeah.
So
it's probably also the case that whilst your anxiety was feeling strong in the way that it was, it probably also felt like you didn't want to be away from the familiarity of environment, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that I use this word, recognizing it's too strong a way to put it, but what you're describing is an element of sort of codependency, in a sense that you don't want to leave home because it's safe and familiar. And when the anxiety was feeling quite overwhelming, at least it was a place that you felt safe. But also not wanting to leave because you don't want to leave your family and them feel sort of left without you and what the impact might be. That I think that's not a good place from which to make important life choices. And you're at an age where one of the, each chapter in life, like as one gets older, has its gifts and has its challenges, right? So one of the challenges you have at the chapter you're at is you don't have money and you don't necessarily have confidence in the way that you will as you get older. One of the gifts is you have freedom and you have time, right? And then one gets older and older, and one, hopefully if life works out, gets a bit more money and gets perhaps a bit more self-confidence.
Yeah.
One has less time and less freedom.
Yeah.
So that, that there are pros and cons. And I always think that one of the secrets to life is to try and live each stage as fully as you can at that stage. So the person that in their early 20s goes traveling, has great experiences, follows their passions, does the things they want to do. When they get to their 30s or 40s, and they might, be married, have kids, have a mortgage, and can't just go, I want to go traveling, I want to do this. Doesn't resent the fact they can't do it, because they look back fondly and go, oh wow, that was a really exciting time of my life. And I really like the fact at this point in my life, I've got these things. So it's allowing yourself to be free to live this stage of your life, which, to be blunt, is about being selfish and about doing, not that I think what you're talking about is selfish, but it's about doing what you want to do. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
When I put it like that, does that feel a bit different in terms of how you think about it? Does that give you more permission, I guess, is what I'm thinking?
Yeah. No, it does. And I think next time when I'm wondering what I'm going to do, I think I'll try and think about what I want a bit more. and figure that out. But yeah, it definitely makes sense.
Because I feel like, I might be wrong, but I feel like I can't do it because I don't have money feels like a bit of a excuse in a sense, like because you can go and get money by doing what you're doing. Like you're starting to earn a bit more and you're doing a bit more work, and even if you're only putting away, you know, £100 a week or something, or £200 a week, like you can put away the money, and you don't need much to travel in the way that you're talking about. Again, that's the other thing. Different stages of life. You get to my age and you want to stay in 5-star hotels.
Yeah.
When you're your age, it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it's like that there's a different cost and a different need that's involved as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely something that I think about because I think I really would benefit from it a lot.
I think so. I think it would really, you know, there's a sort of interesting thing that people talk about self-esteem and self-worth like it's something that should just be a given. And there's a truth in a sense that, you know, we're all intrinsically, inherently valuable and worthy. But I also think self-esteem and self-confidence is something that we earn. And we earn it by doing things that are challenging and difficult and learning to respect ourselves for the fact that we do them. Not that we always succeed and not that we always it goes the way we want it to go, but it's like we go, yeah, I respect myself for the fact that I go for what I want. I respect myself for the fact that I find that was difficult and I was scared and I did it anyway. Like just the very nature of the fact that you've come here and done this.
Yeah.
I hope that's giving you a sense of, yeah, actually, that was kind of scary. Like, but you did it.
Yeah.
That you earn that self-esteem and that self-worth by the actions that you make. And I think this idea of going traveling is a great way of developing and growing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So coming back to this inner critic. So this critical, judgmental voice, I really want to build more awareness of that. Because what's happening, I think, at the moment is it's there quite a lot of the time saying, you know, oh, you're being selfish, you're letting this person down, or you need to do this or whatever. But because you're not so aware of it, it's just sort of happening and it's getting quite a lot of influence over you by the fact that it's just being allowed to sort of do what it's doing. The more that we put a spotlight on it, the more that you start to see it, the very fact of seeing it often takes some of your power back from it. And going, actually, is that actually true? Like, so part of how I'd like to work with this is A, to do some homework around building awareness around it, and B, to start to really challenge the things that it's saying. Yeah.
Okay.
So on the awareness piece, we've talked about how it plays out with your sister, how it's plays out with your mum, how it plays out perhaps to a lesser degree with your friends. Can you think of any other places that you find yourself feeling guilty, or you find yourself kind of questioning, kind of feeling an obligation to do something that may not be actually what you want to do?
I would say exercise, but this week it's been kind of like, I don't know, it's been like a revelation that I don't actually have to exercise. And yeah, I definitely did feel quite guilty about it, but I just kind of shrugged it off and kind of said, well, I was working. My body needs to rest, and kind of just accepted that. But I think I did have that excuse that I was working, like a really long shift on my feet. So that kind of stayed my excuse.
You're allowed to only not go because you go, I've done all of this, as opposed to having a day you're like, I actually just don't want to go. Even when I've not bothered to go to the gym, I'm kind of worried about it throughout the day. Not worried about it, but just feel really guilty about it. Like, oh, it's gonna, like, if I miss this day, then, you know, I don't know, something will happen. But and then I've gone, even if I haven't made it to the gym, I've gone for a run or done something at home, which has made me feel a bit better about it, but I still feel that guilt, like, oh, I didn't actually make it to the gym. So it's almost like trying to placate your inner critic by saying, oh, but I did do this, or I went yesterday, or I'm going to go tomorrow, as opposed to just like, fuck off, I'm not going to go. And it's like, and that to be okay. And
I do notice that on the days that I don't go, I like watch what I eat a lot more. I'm like less like do less cooking, and I like usually have, like, I'll just have like a salad for dinner or something. And I tried not to do that, but I still do it. And I do just tend to eat less if I've not done my exercise.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit more wary of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of feel like that it kind of like evens out. Oh, I'll just have a salad for dinner. So then I won't feel that guilt about
So
not
what
going
I'm
to the
actually
gym.
hearing you say is that there's a place that you have to earn the right to have a full meal, in a sense, like to have like a proper count of calories.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see that?
Yeah.
Because whether you have the full meal that dinner or tomorrow, like, doesn't actually matter in the scheme of, like, of course, if you're massively increasing your calories and you're dropping any exercise, you're going to gradually gain weight. Like that's the mechanics of what happens. But feeling like I can only have a proper dinner if I've been to the gym is quite a controlling way to be around your nourishing your body and having food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it strikes me also that quite a lot of what you're talking about, and you kind of said it yourself explicitly as well, is how you're perceived. Like there's the helper pattern, like wanting to look after everyone else, but there's also a bit of what I call an achiever pattern, which in a sense of wanting to be seen to be helpful, wanting to be seen, like to have the body image that you think you need to, like there's quite a lot of that I think also influences your actions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I really want to get more awareness around the helper pattern and the achiever pattern, particularly. Like do it. So going back to module 3, that thought diary that you do, I talk about doing at the end of each day, or like journaling, I think would be a really helpful thing just to kind of to see it play out more. So like what it might look like is at the end of the day, where today did my helper pattern or my achiever pattern? You look back and you go, oh, actually, I was going to go and do X and I didn't because I wanted to be there for my sister and do this. Okay, you write that down. And then you notice that you were hungry after lunch and you were going to have pudding, and then it was like, oh, but I didn't go to the gym this morning, so I'm not like. So you just start to write those things down, because just the more awareness alone is often really helpful in taking some of the power out of the pattern. The second piece is then, particularly with the helper pattern, is the question to ask yourself is this really true, or like, is this really how I want to set it up? So to take the example of you're going to go out and it's like, oh, but I don't want to let my mum down. And then it's like, is it really true that me going out is really going to hurt her in that way? And if the answer is yes, it's like, is that really the way that I want to live the rest of my life? That I can't be free to live the life that I want to because of my concern of the impact that it's going to have on my mum, for example.
Yeah.
How do you feel about doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be weird to actually like be aware of it.
Yeah.
Like as it happens, but yeah, it's just like trying not to feel guilty about it.
And if you do, that's okay, but write that down.
Okay.
Because I really want to build, like, it's not that doing this means that it's going to banish the guilt overnight.
Yeah.
But I really want to grow your awareness and my understanding as well, because we'll talk about it next time. Really grow your awareness around how these patterns play out and manifest. Because the more that we can see them, the more, like, so that there's a few different layers to the awareness. The first is just to recognize you do these patterns, which you do, because we're talking about it in an eloquent, clear way. The second is to be able to see specific examples. And you've given me some, and I want you to get some more.
Yeah.
The next is to see the pattern as it's actually happening. So like you're in that moment where, you're about to go out and then you think, I shouldn't because of your mum. And you go, hang on, this is the very thing that Alex and I talked about. And then the final step is to be able to see it enough that you can actually make a different choice. So in that moment, rather than going, I'm not going to go out, you go, I can see the impulse to not go out because of this thing of my mum, but actually I'm checking and actually I really do want to go out, therefore I'm going to go out. So that we're kind of gradually getting a deeper understanding and a deeper awareness of how it plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also want you to really continue with your stop process. Be mindful, and we can talk more about this if helpful at any point, but you're making really good progress, which I'm obviously really, really pleased to see, and well done for putting in the work to do that. And it's not a perfect straight line from where we are to where we're going to, right?
Yeah.
So inevitably, there's going to be the odd bump on the road. One of the things that's important is making sure we do all we can to protect the progress that you're making.
Okay.
One of the things that sometimes happens, and I don't think this is what happened here, because I was sort of exploring it earlier, and I think it's not, is sometimes our motivation to go to the gym, to do meditation, do the stop process, is we feel so shit that if we're terrified that if we don't, we're going to feel worse. So it's like we're motivated by not feeling that way. And when we start to feel a bit better, that motivation sort of drops away because we're feeling better. And then we stop doing all the things that are helping us, and then we slip back.
Yeah.
Then we get motivated again and we start doing those things.
Yeah.
So we want to avoid the primary motivation just being getting away from it, because you'll find this kind of erratic follow through. What we really want to have, and I think but there is a good amount of this here, is you're also just motivated because you feel good and you want to keep feeling good. So it's not avoiding feeling terrible. It's like you notice that if I go to the gym most days and if I meditate most days, and as we're adding in this next piece around listening to what you want and honoring what you want, you notice that actually your life is growing and progressing in the ways that you want to, and you're motivated by the moving forwards, not just the motivated by not falling backwards.
Yeah.
Does that, it might sound like semantics, but it's kind of important difference in a sense.
Yeah, no, that's like literally on Sunday I was kind of getting a bit like, I don't want to hinder the progress that I've made. Yeah. So Monday I need to get back into doing the meditations.
Yeah. And you did.
Yeah.
Which is really great. Which is really great, and you're where you are making progress because of the effort you're putting in. You don't have to put this effort in for the rest of your life. It's not like, the outcome of this is not that you have to go to the gym and meditate and use stop process and do all these things for the rest of your life. Otherwise, you're going to have anxiety. We want to get enough momentum that gradually you need less of that. And yes, you want to live your life in a way that takes care of you, and takes care of your mind and takes care of your body. It's just having a sort of balanced relationship with that. But right now we've got momentum. We really want to build on that momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions today?
I don't think so. Is there any new videos that I need to watch? Or
yes. So you got to the end of module 4?
4. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you keep going and do module 5, I'm then going to suggest you jump to module 9.
Okay.
So just so you know what you're looking for, module 5 is a continuation of the stop process with some other bits added in. Module 9 is on the inner critic. And we've been talking a bit about the inner critic today. I think watching the module on that would be helpful.
Okay.
So those 2 modules, 5 and 9, 6, 7 and 8, we might come back to at a different point. It's more about working with emotions, which totally has a place, but it's not quite where you need to be, I think, at this point. So do 5 and then jump to 9. I think would be really helpful. And if you want to do more, you might find 10 quite interesting, which is a model of 9 different personality types. And it might be quite an interesting way of understanding your mom, your sister, and some of those dynamics. Okay. So if you want to go there, you can as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. Lovely to see you, Sanaya. Keep going. You're doing great.
Thank you.
I hope you found this week's episode helpful. I'm also curious, is this a pattern that you recognize? Is this something that you find yourself doing, being at the kind of beck and call of everyone around you and their needs and their wishes? And I'd love to hear in the comments, is that something you do? But also, what are your signs that you're not listening to your own needs? Is it that you get an increase in anxiety? Is it that you become physically drained? Is it that you start to get physical symptoms? How does your emotional body communicate to you that you're not listening to your emotional needs? If you can see it, you don't have to be it. The more awareness we have of those responses, the better we can get at breaking that pattern. Also, to let you know that my 12-week online coaching program, the Reset Program, is opening for registration again this Thursday. We open the Reset Program up a few times a year. Really what happens in therapy is you get to be a spectator observing other people's therapeutic journeys, but all of the participants in Therapy go through the Reset program. If you want to find out more, there's a free 3-part video series, and there's a link in the description below the video where you can watch those free videos to find out more. Next week, we're going to be catching up with Beverly. So if you're curious as to how she's been doing, please do join us next week.